Welcome back. Let's finish this test 16. We're going to finish strong.
Flack math! Give me some math and I'll give you some flack. Flack math!
All right, number 11. Calculate the slope of the line that contains 8, 6, and 8, 1. Tell whether the line rises, falls, is horizontal, or is vertical. Okay, well, you could just plug this into the slope formula, which is rise over run, so difference in y's over the difference in x's, because y's calculate the rise and x's calculate the runs. So the difference in y's, let's go 6 minus 1 over 8 minus 8. Uh-oh, that gives us a 5 over 0. This is not good. This is undefined. So what does an undefined slope look like? It looks like this. If you try to ride your bike up that, you will become undefined, or down it would be hurtful. So this is undefined, and it is a vertical line. Other thing you could do is just graph these 2 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here's 8, 6 and 8, 1. That's a vertical line. You can see that. Okay, you don't have to use the slope formula. You can answer all these questions by just graphing it too. All right, number 12, logarithmic equation. How exciting. Okay, so we're just gonna write this in logarithmic in exponential form. So remember that log base 4 of 1024 equals x. That means what exponent do you apply to 4 to get 1024? So basically this is 4 to the x equals 1024. I mean, you could probably do that. Let's see, 4 to the third power is 64, so 4 to the fourth power would be 256, and then 10 more. So it's probably 5, x equals 5. But you're not asked to do that. You're just asked to write the logarithmic equation in exponential form. So boom, you're done. All right, number 13, evaluate the piecewise function for x equals 0 and x equals 6, okay? F of 0. Well, first of all, we have to figure out which one of these 3 categories it applies to. So x, 0 is not less than 0. 0 is greater than or equal to 0, so this is gonna be 7. 6 is greater than or equal to 6 because it's equal to 6, so this is gonna be -3. Yeah, it's that easy. Just figure out where those numbers belong and then write the number. That's it. All right, number 14, find the value of x, round to the nearest tenth, and it gives you the sine equals opposite over hypotenuse, so that makes it so much easier. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna find x. So look, if we find the sine of 28 degrees, that's opposite of the 28 degree angle, which is x, over the hypotenuse, which is always the same, 24. Okay, so now how do you solve for x? Well, if you multiply both sides by 24, that will cancel that and you'll get x by itself. So that's what we're gonna do. So x equals 24 times the sine of 28. So let's find the sine of 28 and multiply it by 24. Sound good? Sounds good. So 28 sine times 24 equals approximately 11, round to the nearest tenth, okay, 11.3. X did not equal, x is actually approximately 11.3. All right, another probability problem. Number 15, 2 fair coins are flipped, not those weird unfair coins. Whatever. Find the probability that both coins come up heads both times. Okay. This is kind of worded weird, but this is just the probability of heads, 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 and heads, okay? You could look at it like this, probability of heads and heads times another probability of heads and heads. And really that's probability of heads times probability of heads times probability of heads times probability of heads. Okay, that's just 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2, which is 1/16. or 0.0625. Okay, that's it. Good job. All right, number 16, the weights of candles produced in a factory have a mean of 9.0 ounces and a standard deviation, of 0.25 ounces. A randomly selected candle weighs 9.4 ounces. How many standard deviations is this above the mean? All right, well, it gives us a z-score. So remember, our z-score is basically how far something is away from the mean, okay? So let's just plug this in. So z-score equals x, which is 9.4, minus the mean, which is 9, all divided by our standard deviation, 0.25. So it gives us all the information in the problem. We're just plugging and chugging. So this is 0.4 divided by 0.25. How many 0.25s go into 0.4? Well, that is 1.6. All right, number 17, simplify the expression. Okay, we get to factor. We're going to factor this. Oh, actually, we're going to factor. So they already have the same denominator, so we're just going to subtract the numerator. So we have x minus 1 over x squared plus 2x minus 3. Let's factor that just because we can. So x minus 1 over what two numbers multiply to get -3, but add to get 2, +3, and -1. All right, so look at what happens. These guys cancel. The x minus 1s cancel. You can cancel that whole thing because the whole numerator cancels with one of the factors, because this is divided by, so multiplication cancels with division. All right, so now we're just left with nothing, or 1 over x plus 3. And don't forget, I don't think they ask you to do this, but if you say x cannot be two things, it cannot be -3 or +1, right? Because you can't have a 0 in the denominator. So technically this is your answer. But if you tell me this, maybe I'll give you extra credit. I should, because you went above and beyond. All right, suppose a ball is thrown with an initial speed of 7, so a velocity of 7, from a height of 25 to the nearest hundredth of a second. How long will it take the ball to hit the ground? Use the projectile motion equation, which is just a quadratic equation. H equals -4.9 t squared plus initial velocity times t plus the initial height of 25, okay? So all we're doing is plugging these suckers in. So we're just gonna replace this initial velocity with 7, and replace that initial height with 25. So we're gonna plug those in, but we wanna know when it's gonna hit the ground. So what is the height of something on the ground? Well, that would mean 0. So how long will it take to hit the ground? Well, I'm gonna circle hit the ground, and that's gonna mean h equals 0, okay? So 0 equals -4.9 t squared plus 7t plus 25. Okay, and so it says use the quadratic formula, no problem. But the first thing I'm gonna do, well, you don't have to, you'll get the same answer, but I just like having my t squared positive. So I'm gonna put everything over here, 4.9 t squared minus 7t minus 25 equals 0. So A equals the coefficient of the x squared term, or the variable squared term, t squared, 4.9. B equals -7. C equals -25. So I'm going to plug that into my quadratic formula, which is x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? Or I'm going to use my quadratic formula, and my formula, what was it? Calculator soup? That was awesome. Let's look up my calculator soup. Here's my quadratic formula. Okay, what is my A? What was my A? 4.9. And then B was -7. And then C was -25. So that gives me that. Okay, so I can't have a negative time. So that's my time, 3.0, does it say round it? 3.0833. So it's round to the nearest hundredth, so 3.08-ish. That is in seconds. Cool. So number 19 goes back all the way to lesson 9. Remember lesson 9? Good times. Lesson 9. Find AB if A equals that and B equals that. Okay, so we're just multiplying. So I'm going to color coordinate the crap out of this. So we're going to multiply this times these two things. Okay, so that is 3 times 2 plus 0 times 0. So that goes here. So that's 6 plus 0, which is 6. And then this guy is going to be, in this slot, is going to be 3 times -1 plus 0 times 3. So that cancels out. So you just get a -3 in this slot. Okay, let's do the next row with these columns. So you're going to multiply this times these two things again. So -1 times 2 plus 5 times 0, which cancels. So you get left with -2. And then -1 times -1 plus 5 times 3. So that's +1 plus 15 is 16. Okay, and then the last row. So 2 times 2 plus 3 times 0. So you get 4 there. And then 2 times -1 plus 3 times 3. So that's -2 plus 9 is 7. Good times, number 19. All right, last question, number 20. Here we go. We're going to simplify, and then we're going to combine any like radicals if we have any, okay? We can do this. So remember, we're looking for the biggest squares that go into 128. I think I found that this is easier for you guys to do it this way. So what is the biggest square that goes into 128? Well, let's list out some perfect squares. Looks like 64 times 2. So now I can take that 64 and take it out of the radical to make it an 8. So this becomes an 8, and what are you left with in the radical? A 2. Okay? All right, what about this? What is the biggest perfect square that goes into 75? Looks like 25. And how many of those are there? 3. So I'm going to take out a 25, and it becomes a 5. And what am I left with in the radical? A 3. All right, one more. What is the biggest perfect square that goes into 98? Well, 49 goes in 2 times. Take this out, becomes a 7. And what are you left with? Just a 2 in there. So now you can combine like terms here. So look what you're combining. You can combine these radicals. 8 radical 2's minus 7 radical 2's is just 1 radical 2. You don't need a 1 there. Minus 5 radical 3. Dun, dun, dun. That's it, guys. That's your last test, your last question of your last test. We did it. So that was Algebra 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. And yeah, this could be the last year with Mr. Flack. That's sad to me. It's probably even more sad to you. Sorry about that. But if you haven't taken geometry yet, I'll have you in geometry. So yay. It was a good year, good job. I'm proud of you guys. This was a tough one, and you survived it. Well done. I'll see you later.
Flack math! Give me some math and I'll give you some flack. Flack math!